This idea comes from health. So attractiveness is based on health. The point.
No, no, it isn't. The reason why women are attracted to buff men is because buff men, in the minds of women, fairly, instinctually, is attractive because it looks like, from an offset view, if you don't think about it for 5 seconds, that they are more capable of protection of that woman. So they select those guys. An incel, listen, an incel who's skinny, has no fighting experience, but he has Second Amendment rights. He's a bit of a schizo, and he has a Glock on him. That guy is going to murk the buff guy 10 out of 10 times. Because, get this, guns beat kung fu. You could kung fu your fucking ass off, but you're not going to beat a gun. Their preferences are entirely instinctual, right? And being buff isn't healthy. You have to tear apart your muscles to get buff. Even ignoring that, these people who are buff are not healthy. They take drugs, they take steroids. It's not healthy for them. They lose reproductive capabilities because of the roids, because of the steroids. It's not literally healthy for you, is my point. So the reason isn't health, because steroids aren't healthy for you. It's because the look of buffness, the look of the physique that looks like that of a Greek god, is something that makes women think, oh, they're like that of a Greek god. They can protect me against these people who want to assault me or whatever, right? They see someone who could protect.
Point of attractiveness and why you find people attractive for the most part. We are more complex creatures now, and there is more nuance to it. But at its
There's more nuance to it, you're right. But the instinctual mind, has not adjusted to the complex nuances of the modern day. Like I said, you're right. You're right in that. They aren't adjusted to the complex nuances of the modern day, which is why women are still attracted to buff guys, because that signals their feral primitive monkey brain that feral guy equal buff, and buff equals able to protect. That's all they care about. In their mind, in their skull right here, they think buff equals ability to protect. Therefore, I like buff guys. That's what's in their feral mind, in their primitive monkey brain.
its base level, attractiveness is based on you showing that you are healthy, that you have healthy genetics, and that you are capable of passing those healthy genetics onto your children to ensure.
I agree, entirely so. You know, healthiness is determined by how many roids you could shove into your arm, how many shots of needles you could stick into your veins. That's what determines healthiness, right? Not your diet, not your lifestyle. No, no. The ability to shove roids into your arm. That's what determines health.
To ensure that they will survive.
I can't stand these right-wing types. I know I'm sort of on the right-wing side, adjacently, to some degree. But the defense of these people who stick literal drugs in their arm to influence their level of testosterone and muscle capacity, while at the same time somehow lambasting trans people who use estrogen, is kind of ridiculous. And if you're being blunt, you're being honest. Both aren't really technically good for your health. Both can have adverse effects. It's just a funny dichotomy of these people who stick loads and loads and loads of drugs into their veins, while at the same time we're embarrassing other people who do the same thing.
Now, they comes other signifiers that will help that survival of children, like maybe you're protective, you're a good provider, yada, yada, yada.
That's the only factor women care about. That's it. You could be a monkey brained, zero IQ retard, no intellectual capacity. But because you can provide and protect, she'll select you over another guy. Which is why the process of hypergamy is sort of dysgenic in a IQ sense. But it's eugenic in a physical sense. You'll have leftists who decry eugenics as their mating preferences is entirely dictated by eugenics. It's why every guy who's an incel has the same sort of body shape. They're skinny, they're white, they're poor. You're literally eugenically selecting a certain very specific type of man out of the market. And by the way, I don't think incel means hate women. I think incel means involuntarily celibate, i.e., wants to get laid, but literally is rejected by all women and physically cannot get laid. So there are people who won't self-ID as incels, but are incels. You could be a leftist and be an incel. An incel isn't an ideological prescription. It's just you can't get laid. That's it. It's pretty much just calling someone a virgin. The only difference between virgin and incel is that you could be a voluntarily celibate. You could be a voluntary incel. Yeah, pretty much. You could be a voluntary virgin. You could be a voluntary virgin. Where with incel, you are involuntarily celibate.
We get more into the social aspect of it there, but at the absolute base level,
There's no social aspect. What social aspect? Men and women who date, generally speaking, have nothing in common. My parents had nothing in common. My grandparents had nothing in common. My great-grandparents had nothing in common. They dated and reproduced because they wanted offspring or money. That is what families do, and that is what my family has done for generations. People don't date because of social reasons. There is no social factor to dating. That is what people tell themselves. That is the nice little fantasy we want to hear. The fantasy of somebody who you come home to, loves and cares for you. That is a fantasy. It does not exist. The second your resources run up dry as a man, that so-called loving life will be dipping you for Tyrone.
your attractiveness is based on how well your children would survive. And so if a woman were to choose you, by extension, how likely her children would be to survive.
Convinced you.
Women don't care about their children. They don't. A lot of the times, in cases of child abuse, it's a lot of cases the mother who's abusing the children. Because women tend to have more systematic protections with regards to parenthood, with regards to society. So they can more cleanly sneak abuse under the rug. And also, women are less likely to support children when they're older than men are. The reason I say this is that a lot of single mother households, they'll kick their sons out. personal experience guy here, but anecdote. It wasn't my grandfather who kicked me out. It was my grandmother. Women tend not to care about offspring as much so as women. Men tend to care more about offspring than women, is my point.
Of that.
Of course, that's not really true. She's only saying that because feminists hate their fathers and they want men to fail, and then they end up alone and they can't figure out why.
And this is
No. The real reason is that women, they don't want to tell you what they think. They want mind games. They want to expect that you understand what they want, but they don't want to tell you. And here's the thing. This guy's going to go on like a convoluted type spiel, but there's tons of women who openly say they want buff men who make a lot of money. They say that's their fantasy. A lot of them. So it isn't that a lot of them are just not appealing to public perception, like they don't want to be shamed or whatever. That's not it. There's a lot of women who publicly say it regardless of shame.
And this is the type of language that I was talking about. So we'll need to forgive him for that because he does make excellent points. Language is a little harsh, but sometimes you do need to be somewhat direct.
Modern women will try to tell you that they don't like strength, and it's always a lie. This one's trying to tell you that working out to build muscle is gay because women don't like it and men do. And that's
And women, or as a trend, the vast majority of women do absolutely love muscle. Now, I can speak to this from first-hand experience. I said this just in my last video, but attractiveness for men is a gate. It's a binary. It's a yes or no. You have to pass through that gate before you'll be considered human and before you'll even be considered attractive or even considered as a potential partner. Once you're...
Wow, it sounds like this is very conditional, not at all loving. Sounds like I have to jump through hoops just to get it. Sounds like I'm putting in all the work to get muscled, to get a physique. And it sounds like the woman just sits there and does nothing. It sounds like I have to waste resources on this. It sounds like I have to waste all my effort, but it sounds like she doesn't have to put an ounce of effort in. And it sounds like it's genetics. It sounds like this guy's arguing that it's health. It's related to passing on good genes. So it sounds like I could put all this effort in and still not get anywhere. It sounds like this whole modern dating thing is a complete sham and not worth my time. That's what it sounds like. Women, when they had the right to choose, decided to make dating completely unapproachable for 99% of people. They decided to be OnlyFans models. They decided to be single mothers. What they did with their freedom to choose was ruin themselves, ruin their kids' lives, and ruin their grandparents' lives. Actually, ruin their parents' lives. Because if the father is not stepping up, you know the damn well that the grandparents have to. Your choices, woman, your actions has led to the outcome where your kids do not have a foreseeable future because you don't have a job. You can't get them in at a job. So when they get of age, they are unemployed. They have no connections. They have no inheritance. They have nothing. And so you're never going to pass on your genes farther than your first generation of offspring because your choices has led to a generation of younger men who have no options in society. So enjoy your dead bloodline that you caused and enjoy being in a nursing home by yourself alone.